All right, we're here with Ron and Jason from ZapThink, visionaries in XML technologies. Spent a lot of time charting the course for XML and looking at what's going on in the industry. Kind of tell us a little bit more about what you guys do.
Sure. Well, Jason Bloomberg and myself, Ron Schmelzer, we're our analysts. We focus on XML web services and service-oriented architecture. But the primary thing that we're looking at is the movement towards loosely coupled distributed computing. That's represented by companies moving away from monolithic, tightly coupled integrated systems towards ability to compose different functionality together using services. That's a broad-ranging set of changes going on in IT overall.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time talking to enterprise architects at large enterprises who are struggling with service-oriented architecture and trying to understand all the different elements, whether it's software or organizational changes or other elements to move toward this vision of loosely coupled computing.
And of course that includes all aspects of infrastructure of which the network is part of the environment now that's going to be affected by this movement towards service orientation.
Right on. So with a lot of service orientation, web services, I mean that's a lot of stuff people are talking about here. What kind of stuff did you, what's been going on that you've seen that's interesting?
Well, sure. Well, one of the things, as you know, at the Microsoft PDC event that has been a big emphasis, especially since 2003, was the Windows Communication Foundation, which is part of Indigo, as well as the changes going on with Windows Workflow Foundation that we've just been announced today. But the big thing is that they're trying to transform the notion of the developer from developing one particular snippet of functionality that's locked behind some application boundary to developing some consumable services that can be consumed within, whether it's Office or SharePoint or the whole environment. And the notion of this service now being available on the network now changes the way that the developers are building distributed applications. And I think that's a huge thing that we're seeing here at Microsoft, is enabling those developers to build distributed apps.
Yeah, so one of the most exciting things that Microsoft is up to in the SOA world is the Windows Communication Foundation, the former Indigo, because it pulls together all of Microsoft's APIs into a single service-oriented approach to building distributed applications. So what this does is it gives developers who are working in heterogeneous environments a very powerful set of tools that they can leverage their Windows environment to provide for service-oriented architecture-based applications. So Microsoft is really trying to, one, participate in heterogeneous environments, but also offer their customers real value proposition for staying with the Microsoft environment. So they're trying to basically win both ways, in a heterogeneous environment as well as the all-Microsoft environment.
Right on. So that brings up kind of some interesting issues too. I mean, we're talking about a lot of technologies here at PDC, but at the same time, what's going on that maybe isn't being talked about, or what are things that enterprises that are looking at this stuff need to be thinking about that maybe doesn't always get talked about in the breakout sessions or topics that are presented?
Well, we've talked a lot. There's still a lot of emphasis on the development of services and sort of the interconnection of services, but in a service-oriented architecture, we also have to worry about metadata a little bit more than we usually do. For example, a lot of stuff around security, policy, business process, reliability. That stuff in a service-oriented architecture is defined in metadata and documents because we don't want to be putting them into code because we want to allow these to be loosely coupled. We haven't seen a lot here at this Microsoft PDC about tooling and infrastructure that helps with metadata management around things like registry, metadata creation for policies and security. We haven't really seen a lot of emphasis around that. And also I'd say there's some cultural organizational things that they haven't really talked about at this Microsoft event.
Yeah, the people thing always comes into play.
The people thing, right, yeah.
Yeah, I would also say that while Microsoft does offer tools that work specifically in heterogeneous environments like the host integration server and BizTalk, really the emphasis at this PDC is in building applications entirely within the Microsoft environment. So there's more emphasis on greenfield coding, building applications from scratch, and less emphasis on dealing with the integration issues in a heterogeneous environment. But that's not to say that Microsoft doesn't participate well in that, but it's just not the emphasis of this PDC.
Like composition, more emphasis. We haven't really seen a lot of composition tools, but maybe the next one.
Absolutely. Looks like they've got a topic to look at. Probably see this and say, hey, we need to address that next time. Yeah. So brings up an interesting topic when you start talking about the rest of the infrastructure and things that people plug into. Obviously, F5 has its roots in networking, doing more intelligent networking things. What role does the network play in some of this stuff?
Well, as you know, we're talking about distributed computing, right? So it's hard to think about distributing computing in any practical way without thinking about the network. Otherwise, you're distributing on a machine or, like, I don't know, like a smoke signals or something. But you need to distribute on the network. what makes service-oriented architecture different than integration middleware is that integration middleware glosses over the role of the network by basically saying it's the role of software to connect systems together. But a service-oriented architecture says, well, these services can be anywhere on the network and they can be connected in any way. So they can be connected on a point-to-point, peer-to-peer, or they can be connected on a bus of some sort or some sort of mesh fabric. And so now the network serves a critical role in controlling how services perform, whether it's reliably, secure, whatever. The network is that core thing. So either you have to work around the inefficiency of the network, or you have to get the network to be involved in making the service interaction more efficient. So I think now we can afford to think about how can we use the network as part of our service-oriented architecture, because architecture doesn't restrict itself to software only. Right.
Yeah, so what's happening is that there's this new class of technology that is based on content-aware networking or application-oriented networking, where network devices like F5s don't have to focus solely on the middle of the OSI stack, the TCP/IP layer, where you're dealing with packets and you're dealing with ports and you're dealing with transactions on that level, TCP transactions, but rather on the layer 7, where you're dealing with the content of the messages, which is a very different kind of thing for a traditional box maker who is thinking in terms of packets, because you have to assemble the packets to make sense out of the content, and it's a very different thing for hardware to do. So what's happening is that there's a blurring between the world of the application and the world of the network, as network administrators, the data center operators are now dealing with some of these application-centric issues. Likewise, application developers have to deal with some of these network-centric issues because of the SOA infrastructure being built on an intelligent network. So it's really causing some cultural issues at organizations where the application guys and the network guys would just assume not deal with the other at all.
Right.
Now they're dealing with each other.
Right. And of course we're going to be talking about that. We have actually F5 is going to be participating on our webcast this upcoming Wednesday, September 21st at 1 o'clock. So for those of you tuning in before then, you're all welcome to join.
Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. So that we're going to be talking about the organizational things while you guys talk about more of how you actually make that work practically.
Yeah. So that's the application network boundary we'll be talking about, and that's free to anybody who wants to register at ZapThink.com. Just come by and sign up for the webcast.
Great. Now, you guys also have a lot of resources on your site. So ZapThink.com, is that the best place to go? And a lot of stuff they can look at. Anything particularly you'd say somebody that wants to learn more, kind of maybe is just exploring some of these issues, what's the best thing they should look at?
Well, we have now over 18,000 readers of our newsletter, so it's becoming very successful, very popular, and primarily people are coming to our site, ZapThink.com. We have a lot of free materials available to sort of lay the groundwork. What is SOA? What are web services? But also, we have a bi-weekly newsletter that goes out, the Zap Flash, and we do tackle some of these really current issues around making service-oriented architecture work. And for those people that want to dig deeper, what we do as a service is we provide our advisory to clients looking to implement service-oriented architecture. We have premium research, including presentations that people can use in there to help sell SOA. We also have a lot of work in terms of identifying the vendors in the market, understanding what companies are doing, and that's sort of what we're trying to help build the market for service-oriented architecture. And our primary audiences are the enterprise architects, end users, professional services firms building out their SOA portfolios, and vendors like yourselves who are looking to build products in that space.
Right, and we also have a number of Zap Forum webcasts now in the can, so you can just come to our website and watch the replays. So those are available, for anybody who wants to come view them as well. So, definitely come to the one September 21st, but you can also see the others.
That's right.
Right on. Hey, thanks, guys, for taking some time out of a busy week, and we'll see you soon.
See you.
Thanks. All right.
Good luck.
All right. Take care. See you guys.